Welcome to Voices of the Case. In this episode, we want to tell you the story of the Alcasser murders.
A truly chilling case, one that gripped Spain for years.
It starts Friday, November 13th, 1992. Already a bit of an ominous date, you know?
Definitely sets a tone.
3 teenage girls, Miriam Garcia, Toñi Gomez, and Desirée Hernandez. They were just 14, 15 years old.
So young.
They're heading out from their little town, Alcasser, near Valencia. Just wanted to go to a disco, the Cooler Club in Picassent nearby.
Just a normal night out for teenagers, or what should have been.
Exactly. And it wasn't far, maybe 2 kilometers, so they decided to hitchhike.
Which apparently wasn't super unusual there.
Yeah.
Even though sometimes the club owner gave lifts.
Right. Seems it was common enough.
Yeah.
But that last part of the road, well, it was dark, isolated, no houses around.
That detail always stuck with me, that stretch of road. Total vulnerability.
Yeah, you can picture it, hitchhiking on a dark, empty road, trusting strangers.
And then they didn't come home.
No, and the big worry right from the start was that they left with almost no money.
So running away seemed unlikely.
Immediately, it pointed straight towards abduction, the worst fear.
And the reaction was huge, wasn't it? Instantly.
Oh, yeah. Massive media attention, public concern just exploded. Everyone knew about the Ninas de Alcasser.
It became this national obsession almost. Fear mixed with this desperate hope.
The initial search, though, was tough. Lots of leads, but they all just fizzled out.
They looked everywhere, right? Friends, people at the disco.
Yeah, even people with priors. For weeks, nothing solid. There was even this really weird lead about a guy with big dolls in a field.
Shows how desperate they were for anything grasping at straws.
The local council printed thousands of flyers. People reported seeing them all over Spain.
That must have been agonizing for the families. False hope after false hope.
Police chased down sightings hundreds of kilometers away. Nothing.
Just dead ends.
The government got involved, high level. Minister of the Interior, even the Prime Minister met the families.
It really shows the scale of it. It wasn't just a local crime anymore.
Not at all. It tapped into this national fear.
And the search went international too.
Interpol got involved. Flyers in different languages sent out Africa, Europe. There was this awful theory about sexual slavery. Morocco.
God, that's grim.
And tragically, a volunteer died during the search early on. An accident.
Just heartbreaking. Shows the risks people took, the dedication.
The violence. For 75 days, until January 27th, 1993.
The discovery.
2 beekeepers. They were out in this remote, hilly area, the Barranco de la Romana, near the Toothless Reservoir. Not near Alcasser at all.
A place you wouldn't just happen upon.
No way. And around 10 in the morning, they see it.
The arm.
Yeah, a human arm, partially buried. Big watch on the wrist.
They thought it might be a man at first because of the watch.
Apparently. They called the civil guard, but it took hours to get everyone out there, the judge included. Remote spot.
And when they excavated.
They found 3 bodies. Female. Badly decomposed.
Just horrific.
Wrapped in a new carpet. A big one.
Yeah.
In a grave that had clearly been dug beforehand.
Premeditated. Chillingly so. That carpet detail.
And the bodies, they were bound, stacked, but not touching. And 2 of the heads were separated.
Oh, God. Just brutal. Identification must have been tough.
Very difficult at first. But the suspicion immediately fell on the missing girls. The judge sealed the case file straight away.
Understandable, given the horror of it.
Near the grave, they found a few things. An unspent bullet cartridge, a video game, but the crucial thing was paper scraps.
Mere some bushes.
Yeah. Pieced together, it was a flyer from La Fe Hospital in Valencia, a social security flyer.
And I had a name.
Enrique Anglais Martins. Treated for syphilis a few months before. That little piece of paper. That was the break.
Amazing how something so mundane can become so pivotal in something so terrible.
It led them straight to Enrique Anglais' house in Catarroja. But here's the twist.
He wasn't the one who used the flyer.
No. Enrique had an intellectual disability. His brother, Antonio Anglais, had used his ID at the hospital.
Antonio Anglais, a known criminal.
Exactly. Police record. He wasn't there. But his sister Kelly, her boyfriend, their mother Nusa, were.
So the clue pointed indirectly to someone much more dangerous.
And while police were there, 2 more brothers arrived, Mauricio and Ricardo, and with them, a friend, Miguel Ricart, El Rubio.
Ricart.
And one officer recognizes him, knows he's an associate of Antonio Anglais from past crimes.
Just happened to be there. Wow.
So they take Ricart in too, just as a witness initially. But his story starts falling apart.
Inconsistencies.
Major ones. Plus, his car matched descriptions of a small white car seen picking the girls up.
Things were starting to line up.
By early morning, January 28th, he's not a witness anymore. He's a suspect. Detained. Before midnight that same day, in his first official questioning as a suspect, he confesses.
Just like that. He admits involvement.
Admits his participation in the whole horrific thing. Must have been stunning for the investigators.
A seemingly huge breakthrough. Finally, some answers, however awful.
But Antonio Anglés, poof, gone.
Vanished.
As soon as they went looking for him, he was in the wind. Still is. One of Interpol's most wanted.
A ghost. Well, Enrique, the brother whose name was on the flyer, was let go that night.
Right. So they have the bodies, they have a confession from one guy, and the prime suspect is gone.
And then came the autopsies. 2 of them.
Yes. The first official one by Valencian forensic scientists. But the families weren't satisfied or maybe just needed more certainty.
Understandable.
They requested a second one by Professor Luis Frantella, a big name in Spanish forensics.
An independent eye? What did he find?
Some significant things. First, 15 hairs. Not Ricard's, not Anglés.
15. Including a gray one, wasn't there?
That's the one. And later DNA tests, mitochondrial DNA, suggested profiles from 5 to 7 different people.
5 to 7, so potentially way more people involved than just Anglés and Ricard.
That's what it implied. A chilling thought.
Absolutely. What else did Frantella suggest?
He had this theory based on larva analysis. He thought the bodies might have been buried somewhere else first.
Moved? Why?
The state of decomposition didn't quite match the larva for a single burial site, in his view. It raised questions about the timeline.
More complexity. Any other points?
He noted the lack of lividity, the blood settling after death, suggested maybe significant blood loss or even submersion in water, but he admitted that was more speculative.
Still, these discrepancies fueled doubts about the official story, didn't they?
Definitely. Now, Ricard's initial confession, it was incredibly detailed and brutal.
We laid it all out.
Said they picked the girls up hitchhiking in an Opel Corsa, drove them to that abandoned cabin in La Romana, not the disco.
The cabin. That becomes central.
Tied them to a post inside. Anglés raped them one by one. Ricard claimed he helped hold them down.
Jesus.
Ricard even admitted raping Desirée himself. Then they supposedly went out to buy food in Catado.
Left them there, tied up.
According to his confession, yes. Came back, the abuse continued, tried to sleep, but the girls were crying. Anglés supposedly lost it. Beat them with a stick to shut them up. Just pure cruelty.
Unimaginable.
Then, the final act. Forced them to walk, gunpoint, candlelight, about 400 meters from the cabin, to a grave they'd already dug.
Tree dug.
Anglés shot each girl in the head, they wrapped them in the carpet, buried them. That was the story Ricard told. Horrific, but complete.
Seemed to solve it in the most awful way.
But then, just 2 months later, he flips. Completely.
Denies everything.
Everything. Says the civil guard tortured him, forced him to make it all up, coerced confession.
Torture. That's a massive claim. Any evidence?
Well, that's the thing. The forensic doctor who examined him right after his arrest found nothing. No injuries, no marks consistent with torture.
So his claim lacked physical backing.
Right. But Ricard stuck to the torture story in later statements.
Why change the story so drastically? So quickly?
Who knows, but it gets even more complicated. A year and a half later, talking to the judge.
He adds more detail.
He implicates 2 more people. Mauricio Anglés, Antonio's brother, who was a minor then, and some other guy he only knew as El Nano.
So now potentially 4 people involved, according to Ricard's news story.
Exactly. Which led to more investigation. Police tried to find El Nano. The juvenile prosecutor looked into Mauricio.
And remember that trip for food Ricard mentioned?
To the Parador bar in Catadau.
Yeah. The bar owners testified at the trial. They said Ricard was there. But the guy waiting outside in the car, they thought his height matched Mauricio, not Antonio.
Wow. That seems to support Ricard's later claim, somewhat. Circumstantially, at least.
But ultimately, the case against Mauricio was dropped, right?
Yeah. Crucially, they found no biological trace of him at the La Romana crime scene. No physical evidence linking him directly.
So that accusation went nowhere officially.
Meanwhile, Antonio Anglés, his escape is legendary almost.
The barbershop incident.
Right. Days after the bodies are found, he's supposedly in a Valencia barbershop, getting his distinct blonde hair shaved off, flirting with staff, brazen.
Incredible nerve. Or desperation.
Then Leeds put him in Portugal, March 93. An informant said Anglis stayed with him, stole his passport planning to get to Brazil.
Brazil, his birthplace.
Yeah. Then, days later, this incident on the merchant ship, the city of Plymouth.
The stowaway.
They find a Portuguese stowaway. He jumps, or maybe gets thrown, overboard, wearing a life vest.
But they only found the vest.
The man vanished. Was it Anglis? Nobody knows for sure. It's this huge question mark.
Did he drown? Did he make it ashore somewhere? Ireland, maybe?
Well, they found a skull on a beach in County Cork, Ireland in '95. Had a deviated septum like Anglis reportedly did.
But it wasn't him.
DNA ruled it out. Another lead in Uruguay also went cold. Huge reward offered, still on Interpol's list. He just disappeared.
Utterly baffling. A true phantom.
Then there's this other figure, Miguel Nicolas Cortona, El Deliria, the man with the gray hair.
Okay, who's he?
Shared a cell with Ricard for a bit in late '92. After Ricard got out that time, he even stayed at Nicolas' chalet for a few days.
So they knew each other reasonably well.
Seems so. And Nicolas told the police this wild story. Said one night, a hooded guy broke into his chalet, threatened him with a gun, stole stuff, beat him with an iron bar.
Ouch.
The very next day, Antonio and Mauricio Anglis turn up, supposedly offering protection. Nicolas thought the intruder was Antonio.
The setup, maybe?
That's what he implied. And he claimed after the Anglis brothers arrived, they started having these disturbing conversations. Abducting girls, rape, how to get rid of bodies.
Right around the time of the Alcasser murders?
Yeah.
That's chilling.
Super chilling. Now, Nicolas himself became a suspect briefly. Remember that gray hair Frontella found?
Ah, so they thought it might be his.
Yeah, but DNA cleared him. He didn't even have gray hair. The media nickname stuck, though. The man with the gray hair.
Ironic.
Blech.
But what about the carpet? The one the bodies were wrapped in?
Right. Nicolas initially told the press it was his carpet, from his chalet.
That's huge. Directly linking his property to the crime.
But then at Ricard's trial, he totally changed his story, said he'd never seen that carpet before. Only a white rug and a pickaxe were missing after the Anglis brothers and Ricard left his place.
Complete contradiction. Makes you wonder what he really knew. His credibility seems shaky.
Very shaky. Now, the DNA evidence from the cabin itself.
What did they find there?
Hairs from Mauricio Anglis, blood from Roberto Anglis, another brother, and semen matching Antonio Anglis.
So it proves the Anglis brothers were in the cabin at some point.
Definitely. But crucially, it doesn't prove they were there when the crime happened or link them directly to the violence against the girls in that specific place.
An important distinction. What about Ricard's car, the supposed abduction vehicle?
Almost nothing. One hair. Ricard's own.
And nothing from the girls. No hair, fibers, DNA.
Absolutely nothing. Not in the car, not in the cabin.
That's extremely strange, isn't it? If the abduction and assaults happened there, as Ricard initially claimed.
It's one of the biggest question marks. A major point for those who doubt the official story. How could there be no trace of the victims in those key locations?
It's a gaping hole in the evidence.
So Ricard goes to trial, May to July 1997, sole defendant.
Kidnapping, rape, murder, illegal burial. The works.
He maintained his innocence throughout, claimed torture, hinted others were involved.
And the forensic experts clashed. Frontella versus the official autopsy.
Big time, lots of disagreement. But in the end, despite the doubts and his denials, guilty.
Sentence.
170 years.
Wow. So judicially, that was the conclusion. Ricard was convicted.
But for many, especially Fernando Garcia, Miriam's father, it wasn't the end. Not even close.
He developed the alternative theory, right? With Juan Ignacio Blanco.
Yes, the crime journalist. They argued the official story was a cover-up.
A cover-up for what?
To protect the real killers, powerful people involved in making snuff films.
Snuff films, that's incredibly dark. A whole different level of conspiracy.
Their theory was Anglis and Ricard were just low-level pawns, hired hands. Ricard maybe just buried the bodies after they were killed elsewhere.
And Anglis.
Possibly silenced, killed himself to stop him talking about the powerful people behind it all.
And the girls, in this theory.
Held in multiple locations, tortured and murdered on camera for these alleged snuff videos.
A truly horrifying narrative. Did they offer proof?
That's the problem. They went on national TV, made huge accusations, named prominent political and business figures, the so-called Clan de la Moraleja.
Named names without evidence.
Without verifiable evidence, yes.
Yes.
It caused a massive scandal.
I bet. What happened?
The people they named sued them. It turned out Garcia and Blanco had been fed false info as part of someone else's personal vendetta.
So the basis for their accusations crumbled.
Completely. They had to retract, apologize, Both got convicted of slander, big fines. The TV host who gave them the platform also paid up.
Shows the danger of airing stuff like that without proof.
Definitely. But Blanco, until he died in 2019, kept insisting he had a snuff video. A real one, with the girls.
He claimed he possessed it.
Claimed Garcia got it in a secret meeting on VHS. Claimed he'd even sent a copy to the Interior Ministry, heard nothing back.
The ultimate proof, if true. Did anyone ever see it?
No. Blanco never showed it publicly, always had excuses. The local priest denied giving any tape to Garcia, and Garcia himself, well, his story changed.
How so?
Sometimes denied getting it, later said he'd held it but never watched it. It's all very contradictory. Impossible to know if the tape ever existed.
Sounds incredibly murky.
Yeah.
The whole alternative theory seems built on shaky ground, despite its appeal to some.
And Garcia and Blanco kept making accusations even after the trial against investigators, forensic scientists, the prosecutor.
Which led to more legal trouble.
More slander convictions, more fines for them and the TV channel that aired their claims.
Meanwhile, this must have been tearing the families apart.
Terribly. Rosa Fulch, Desiree's mother, strongly opposed Garcia's theory. Hated him using her daughter's name for fundraising.
Understandably.
There were legal fights over a planned Niñas de Alcácer Foundation. It never happened because she opposed it. Blanco's book, full of graphic case details, got pulled due to privacy concerns.
Just awful.
Yeah.
And Rosa Fulch faced backlash for not supporting the conspiracy.
Horrible accusations were thrown at her, just compounding the grief. It shows how these follies can inflict even more pain.
A tragedy upon a tragedy.
And despite Ricard's conviction, those lingering questions, they just won't go away.
The things that fuel the doubts.
Yeah, like how did that Social Security flyer stay intact near the grave for weeks? Why no trace of the girls in the cabin or car? The extra hairs Frontella found.
That early mention of a Caravaca cross, too, before it was officially found.
Right, and discrepancies in how the first body looked when found. Little things, maybe, but they add up to keep the doubts alive.
Loose ends that prevent full closure for many.
Since the trial, there have been developments. Ricard got out in 2013.
Pair doctrine annulment, right? Served 20 years.
Yeah, popped up later in a Madrid squat. And near the crime scene, they found a tooth in 2017. DNA was inconclusive.
But then more bones.
2019, some phalanges, finger or toe bones. And in 2020, DNA confirmed they belonged to Miriam Garcia.
God, all those years later. A grim reminder.
And investigations continued, sort of. 2020 and 2021, they tried talking to the City of Plymouth crew again, retested evidence from Ricard's and Angley's cars for DNA.
Any luck?
No. Vehicle tests came back negative in 2022. No new leads there, but it shows they haven't entirely given up, especially on Anglais.
The search goes on, technically.
The social impact, though, it was massive. The media coverage was intense, often criticized.
Trash journalism, wasn't it? The Needs Herrero show became infamous.
Exactly. Sensationalism during the trial, too. Focusing on morbid details, giving airtime to conspiracy theories.
It really raised questions about media ethics in handling such cases.
And the case became part of Spanish culture. Films, documentaries. It's unforgettable in a dark way.
A deep scar on the national psyche. The way it unfolded, the media storm, the unanswered questions.
That's it for this episode of Voices of the Case. Don't forget to subscribe and see you next time.